Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander. Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. Getting closer to the end here of one of the biggest weeks of the offseason, the free agency week, which has been filled with action across the NFL. We will continue to break it all down here for you with some new news in Eagle land today. Johnny Mack, how you doing, my friend, on this Thursday morning?
Doing well. Yeah, Jordan Davis down at the Jefferson Health Training Complex. Yeah, I gotta stay that very, very slowly. So used to saying Novacare. Yeah, I think it's been pretty much as expected with the loan inability to get Jalen Phillips back. I think that's the only thing that went off track for the Eagles thus far. We'll see as guys keep coming off. Bradley Chubb's a big one. Came off, went to Buffalo. And now, there's not a lot of avenues unless you go get Jonathan Grenard or Max Crosby. And I don't know how realistic Max Crosby is, especially with the injury. I mean, you got to factor that into it as well.
We had Dr. Chow on the afternoon yesterday. John, he really gave a good breakdown of Max Crosby. That's a real injury. I mean, it's not just like a cleaning up of the meniscus. It's a full repair. So it's going to be a little bit. Yeah.
So that throws a curve. Plus, if the Raiders hold their line and want significant compensation like the first time, you're not going to go down that route. So in a lot of ways, it might be Grenard or bust, and you're really in the same situation as last year. Whereas, maybe you can get somebody in the draft, maybe somebody shakes loose, maybe whatever, but you're going to be maybe in season next year looking for the next Jalen Phillips for 8-9 games or whatever. If you're not able to fix that hole. So that to me remains the biggest concern. And then a little bit of curveball with Dallas Goedert. We're all sitting there saying, why isn't Dallas Goedert signed? Why isn't Dallas Goedert signed? His contract didn't void. That's number one. And the Eagles and him pushed it back until Friday afternoon.
Does the player have to agree to that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's a clear indication that they're trying to work things out.
Right.
And, if I'm leaning towards will he be back or won't he be back? Now I'm leaning towards he will be back. And then you start to look at a tight end room that looks awfully familiar with the one tweak of Johnny Munt being here as a blocker versus, what you had last year with Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, and Colin Granson. Maybe not the overhaul people wanted, but could be worse.
And John, you would think if Goddard agreed to kick it to Friday and basically not experience the free agency, you would think that they're going to get a deal done, right? I mean,
I would think.
Why would the player get rid of the biggest opportunity he's had to get paid since he's been in the league? Unless he really wanted to get a deal done with Philly.
Yeah, and the salary cap is so complicated. These are, it's like, and the NBA is even worse. But we're so at the start of the new league year, what happens is the NFL sends out this big sort of missive that with all the unrestricted free agents and sort of like a whole roster of who's available. And looking down at the Eagles, I'm looking and there's no Dallas guy. Like, what? Well, okay. And then you start texting, making some calls, and found out that they pushed it back till Friday. Now, even when we talk about contracts and all that stuff, we talk about two sites, Spot Rack, and we talk about Over the Cap. That's what we talk about. And those guys both do a great job. And, they kind of had different explanations when the news came out. And spot rack for, which is Michael Giannitti, I believe his name is. So explains, which is, and this is correct, certainly. If Goddard's contract were to outright void, the Eagles would be saddled with a $20.5 million dead cap hit in 2026, which is correct, certainly. If an extension is signed before Friday's deadline, that 20.5 will be allowed to remain spread over the previous deal. So, and he had four void years. So that's how you work the salary cap aspect.
Right.
Now over Jason Fitzpatrick, I believe, at Over the Cap. Now this is how he described it, and I'm trying to pull it up as we're talking, but which is interesting because it was all, a number of us got the information, all confirmed it, that they pushed back. We were told they pushed back the void date till Friday. So this is what Jason said. Technically, he's the expert. Technically, the Eagles can't push a void date back on Goddard. What they are doing is giving them time to come up with a new contract, or they will have to release him. So I don't know what that means, but they pushed it back. It was supposed to be Tuesday to Friday.
Right.
Tuesday at midnight. Now it's Friday afternoon, probably at 4:00. So that's where we are with Dallas Goedert. But he was not on the unrestricted free agency list, which that enters another thing. I mean, if everybody knows it's going to be void and he's going to be a free agent, is his camp allowed to negotiate like everybody else? That I don't have an answer to. But the whole thing smacks of Dallas wants to be here and Dallas is doing everything to come back. And now it's Friday. So tomorrow, it's a very short window. We should have clarity. I don't think they're going to be able to push it back again. So
no, yeah, I would assume we're going to have news on Goddard either today or tomorrow. Johnny Mac, we will see what happens with Dallas Goedert. John, I got to reset here and go back to the start of what we were only 7 minutes into the show, but I'm jumping back. All right. We talked about this offseason being a retention offseason early after your meetings with Howie Roseman earlier in the offseason. And obviously, you pointed out the plan was Jalen Phillips, number one. Okay. And that's who that was.
By the way, Vic confirmed that. Also,
right, that's who it was about. And we're going to get to Vic in a second here. If that fell through, are you telling me that Howie didn't really have a contingency outside of Jonathan Grenard? I mean, there's got to be something we're not seeing here, right? That was the plan that, hey, Jalen Phillips, hopefully he doesn't get paid?
No, I mean, they were in on Trey Hendrickson. I mean, there was the only one I know they were and very briefly on Max Crosby at the start, but I don't think that was significant. They certainly weren't going to be in the 2 first-round pick range. And they were one of the 4 teams battling for Trey Hendrickson when the Ravens came in and did what they did, and kind of blew everybody out of the water. Seems like they're around 25 million or have been around 25 million with Phillips and Hendrickson. Obviously 25 wasn't close when it came to Phillips. I've got to see the structure of Hendrickson's deal. It's not 30 average annual value, but it might be more. The first 2 years are the most important, the cash flow. Might be higher. You don't know, but until all these contracts are filed. But they were certainly in on Hendrickson. And I'm sure they were in on some of the other edge rushers as well. I'll get that confirmed at some point. But, yeah, I mean, they're looking for an edge rush. I mean, they're looking at they've been looking at Grenard heavily on the trade market. They know they need an edge rusher.
Yeah. We talk about how good Howie is with contingencies. You would think that they would have something in place, but I mean, look, it's still early. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom on it, but it just feels like, I mean, how do we get to this point where all the edge rushers are gone? Bradley Chubb goes yesterday for what I thought was a pretty cheap deal. And, the Eagles are still left with basically the same position they started last year with.
Well, I think the market's a little bit higher than they wanted to go for most of these guys, especially the second tier guys or who they consider the second tier guys. Um, and that's you know, the group 25 million for the Penn State kid. I mean, do you really want to go that way?
Oh, man, it's tough to do, but got to get a player, John. You know, you got to get some
Yeah,
players. Look,
no, you did,
I
but
tell
you
you what,
don't.
the Jordan Davis market was a lot higher than I think everybody else was expecting. So the Eagles were willing to go the distance
Yeah, but
there.
everybody else was framing it on a different market than the Eagles were framing it. So that kind of explains that. Nobody's, everybody was framing Jordan Davis. All right, he's a nose tackle. He's going to play 2 downs. Here's the last nose tackle.
Well, that's
What
everybody
did
was
he
right
get?
about that. I think the Eagles are the ones who went out on a whim there, not everybody else. He hasn't been a
Well,
3-down player.
yeah, but I'm saying we were estimating on a different market than they were.
Right.
So if you estimate on the market they were, it's not out of whack. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying they're right.
Yeah, right. They could still be wrong, but that's the estimation.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is we were all basing our numbers on a different market than they were. And we might all be right. But the point is, we're all estimating the correct market with these edge rushers. Starting with Jalen Phillips from their perspective, but also Adope who 25 minutes. I mean, you say, well, they need a player. Yeah, well, you don't need a player if you think he's not worth $25 million. And I don't think he's worth $25 million.
Yeah, I can't say I'm upset at the Eagles for letting that guy go. That would have been brutal.
And the same thing with Boye Mafe, who got 20 million. Yeah, they need a player, and he could help them, but at 20 million, and you're going to whack.
And that Josh Sweat deal, I know it's hindsight 2020, but holy moly, that Josh Sweat deal sounds good right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's see what they do. If they get Grenard, they're fine.
Yeah, I agree. All right, John, big news we got to get to here this morning. We're going to get to the Jordan Davis talk. Yesterday, you guys were down at the Jefferson Health Complex. You saw Jordan Davis speak. Jalen Carter was in the building. We will get to that. But, John, even bigger news, Vic Fangio, honest Vic, strikes again, John. Jahad Campbell is dealing with an injury and will miss much of the offseason, according to defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Your instant reaction and what is your takeaway on what Vic Fangio had to say? And if you can, read between the lines here for me, John. What the heck is Vic talking about? I don't recall Jahad ending the year with an injury. Where are we with Jahad Campbell? Nakobe Dean left this week, J-Mac. The starting linebacker is Jahad Campbell. And our defensive coordinator just tells us now that he's out for the offseason. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I don't care about the offseason. I'm honest about that. Jeremiah Trotter can stay in. My concern is this: there was no obvious injuries. This related to the labrum injury where he came in last year as a rookie, which was the reason he fell to 31st in the draft. Is this? And remember, he missed the offseason last year because of that injury. And remember, early in training camp, where Vic had said, we don't expect him till late in training camp. And he was there day one. Like, did he push it too quickly? And Vic made the famous quote about the training staff liking to, be patient and over deliver to make themselves look good. But, is this the same injury? That's number one, which I'm going to try to figure out. Or related to the same injury, and did he play through it through the whole season? Then you start worrying about degenerative stuff, and then it becomes a little bit more serious. It's just a normal injury. He's very young. I think it's fine. That's what happens in football. You'd prefer he's young enough that I think the offseason matters more for certainly younger players than entrenched veterans.
Yeah, but John, I mean, there's some concern here, man. I'm surprised that you're not as concerned about this as I thought you'd be. I mean, Jalen Carter had the same thing last year, and we thought, okay, it's going to be fine. He did not have a great season.
Well, no, I'm saying if it's related to the labrum original injury, then I'm more concerned than if it's just a run-of-the-mill football injury, is what I'm trying to say.
I think even run-of-the-mill, though, could be concerning just from a sense that he's missing the offseason, for a young player.
Now, that I'm not worried about at all, to be frank. I mean, he missed it last year. He was fine. Hit the ground running as a rookie. Missed the whole thing as a rookie.
Yeah, but it is fair to say Carter missed too and struggled. Now, that's a different case because the injury was what nagged him forever. But that's my fear here. I mean, you missed the offseason.
Wow,
you don't get back.
Carter's dealing with much more. Carter was coming off a 1,000 snaps playing defensive tackle in the NFL. And, the workload was enormous. And I don't even think he missed. Like defensive front people don't do much in the off season.
Yeah.
It's for 7-on-7 drill, basic. There's no hitting, obviously. There's no nothing. So, I don't even think it was that big of a deal or a big of a narrative in the offseason until he showed up in training camp and with the shoulder injury and didn't practice for like the first 5 days.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I didn't even think it became a deal until training camp, but I have to check my notes, but I don't remember it being that big of a narrative. Jihad wasn't there for the entire. Everybody knew he wouldn't be there. That was part of the issue. Why he fell.
Part of the part of the draft issue.
And one of the things, Jeremiah Trotter spent the whole basically off season and much of training camp taking first team reps. And by the way, did a great job, did a phenomenal job. I got a lot of confidence in Jeremiah Trotter. That's part of it as well. And I think the same thing will happen this year. So it's not, you prefer to have him out there because you want him to learn and he's still a young player. And that's part of the reason why Vic played Nakobe over him, because Nakobe, he trusted Nakobe more and he has a lot to learn. So I'm not saying it wouldn't be preferable to have him out there. I'm just saying he's 22 years old still, I think. As long as he's healthy, as long as it's, I don't care if he comes back August 15th. If he's healthy, that's good. He'll get up to speed. So I
have a feeling it's the same injury. Now I'm speculating, but the Vic Fangio quote was, he is dealing with a shoulder injury. He's going to miss probably most of the offseason. John, I don't know what it is with shoulders right now in the city of Philadelphia. I mean, everybody's got shoulder problems. Nolan, Jalen Carter, now Jihad Campbell.
They drafted Jihad with a shoulder problem. They drafted Nolan Smith with a shoulder problem. So, I mean, yeah, if it's degenerative, if it's long term, if it's going to be a problem throughout his career, that's one thing. Now, people have had labrum surgeries in the past, and it's been fine. And that's what he had last year. And again, I don't even know if it's the same injury. If it's a different injury. He might have gotten injured in the playoff game, and they don't have to say anything from that point forward. So, but certainly the time frame that he's not going to be available for the offseason indicates it's somewhat significant. But again, if it's something that can be repaired with surgery, he's 22. He should be able to bounce back.
Still a concern here, Johnny Mac, for the Eagles, who just let Nakobe Dean walk, who was a great player, obviously, for the Philadelphia Eagles on his rookie contract. He got the deal finalized yesterday with the Vegas Raiders. So good for Nakobe Dean, and that's a little concerning for me, J-Mac. I won't be afraid. I'll say it. I'm a little concerned about this. Vic Fangio speaking about Jihad Campbell. Johnny also spoke about the new signing, Riq Woolen, and I'll give you the quote from Vic Fangio. He says this: "I haven't met him yet. I only know him from video study and evaluating him, and we're hopeful that he's going to come in here and play very well. If Riq can turn out to be what we hope he can be, it will be 3 good cover guys." So Vic Fangio giving a little nod to the signing of Riq Woolen. Has not met Riq Woolen yet, but does believe, obviously, that he can be a good cover guy, and he's hopeful he will be here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, interesting, very, very high upside signing. As I mentioned, I heard my buddy Ross Tucker, who I like a lot, call him the most gifted cornerback in the NFL, the most gifted quarterback in the entire NFL. And then, he talked about being on the field for the NFC Championship game when he actually made a nice play against Puka Nacua. And, the Seahawks are basically going to win the game, and he starts drawing at Puka and he starts going up and down the Rams sideline. And, Ross said he was there. He was on the ground. He heard the whole thing, and the official went up to him and said, "All right, that's enough. That's enough." Gave him an opportunity, and he didn't stop. And that's sort of a window into, maybe the reason the most gifted cornerback in the NFL, and I'm not going to go that far, but that's what Ross said. But that's, I'll say, one of the most gifted cornerbacks. That's a window into why he's getting 1 year and $12 million and not $30 million a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So, again, contracts don't tell you everything, but they tell you a lot. Like, why is somebody this gifted getting a 1 year deal? I can't get over it. We're going to have Les Bowen on in an hour or two. Les has been around. I want to hear his thought. That's immediately where I went to. I'm like, all right, because I've heard so many good things. I see all these next gen stats people. They're running out these stats. All right, why is this player who you all proclaim is this great? Why is he getting 1 year and $12 million? Why is he getting Trent McDuffie money?
Hasn't
Something's
panned out
going on. Something's going on. Something's going on. Why is Seattle, who had him for 4 years, choosing Josh Jobe?
Yeah, right.
Over the most talented cornerback in the NFL. Yeah, the Eagles chose Eli Ricks over Josh Jobe. They made a bad decision as well.
Yep.
Josh is a pretty good player, but he's got his limitations. He's certainly not going to be in the conversation of being one of the most gifted cornerbacks in the NFL. But the Seahawks, who, have a pretty good defensive coach, pretty good defense, pretty good understanding of what to do, pretty successful. And they said, we'll take Josh, essentially. I think it's fair to put that in there because I've gotten so much Riq Woolen hype from the advanced stats people and all this and that. I'm like, all right, explain to me. Then why?
Right.
Is everybody dumb? All 32 teams? Now, I think the upside is extremely high. And, this is a Howie type move. He gets a really gifted guy and, says, all right, go develop him and we can keep him in line, on track, off the field. Sometimes I think they put too much on Dom's plate. But been benched by 2 different coaches. I mean, you gotta add that stuff in there. But this time of year, it's all projection. It's all video games. It's all, well, this guy can do that. He's going to be great. And that's the folly of free agency in general. Even the big time players generally get overpaid. Like I think from a standpoint, from a culture standpoint, from a character standpoint, from a, you talk about Jordan Davis yesterday, you talk about some of these culture guys, Nakobe Dean, who's left, Reed Blankenship, who's left, talk about some of these big time culture guys in the Eagles organization. I think Jalen Phillips fit in that mold. but I still don't think he's worth $30 million.
Is JAKIB Woolen? I'm kind of like and I don't know enough to be able to proclaim it one way or the other, but it sounds like it's a little bit like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. No, maybe some baggage there outside.
Well, I hope it's not. There's certainly some baggage. I've never met the guy. I planning on meeting him very soon, as a matter of fact. But I haven't heard a ton of off the field stuff. Just, like that's on the field. That's in the moment. That's being overly emotional. That's not controlling yourself in the moment and costing your football team 15 yards when
the
Rams got, that's on the field. When he got benched for poor tackling, that's on the field. By Pete Carroll. That's on, that's not. Now he did get benched by Mike McDonald for violating a team rule, but he never undisclosed it. That could be oversleeping,
I don't know. I think they put someone on the bench for oversleeping, maybe.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. If you're trying to light a fire under, if he's late occasionally, something like that, you prefer they not be, but not going to kill a guy.
But the reason I'm not, I think Woolen's going to be fine because he's got 2 All Pros next to him, John. He's got Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper.
I think he's going to be fine too.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the hype, and I'm like, all right, well, if he's then he'd have a 5-year deal for $30 million a year, bottom line. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL at his age, with his athletic profile. He'd be getting minimum $25 million a year.
Right. Well, we'll see. Not doing well this morning, everybody. Jahad Campbell's going to be out for the offseason. If you missed that and you missed our opening segment, Vic Fangio revealed that. So we will find out what's going on there as we learn more about Jahad Campbell. Eagles still looking for an edge rusher. Will they make the move for Jonathan Grenard? Does a Max Crosby trade come into play after he goes back to the Raiders? He's now put out he'll be staying with the Raiders, but I don't think it's entirely up to him, obviously. So we'll see what the Raiders end up doing with him. John, let's keep rolling here in this opening segment. Yesterday, you got a chance to go down to the Jefferson Health Complex and talk to Jordan Davis, fresh off his massive new contract extension. You mentioned Jalen Carter was in the building. Jordan Davis's family was around there. What were your takeaways from Jordan Davis speaking yesterday? Big congrats to Jordan Davis. That's a big deal for a player who worked his tail off. What'd you take away from your meeting with him yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, he's one of the younger sort of culture guys that have taken the baton. He's always been a great dude since the day he got here. So that's kind of people you root for. And it didn't, he's the first one to admit it didn't start great for him. And, he had to grow up a little bit from a standpoint of being a professional. And obviously, I think the conditioning of it, once he crossed that bar and realized he had to get himself into, NFL level shape, but also be able to, you see, I always think of that play where he ran down Josh Allen. It's like he's always had these amazing physical gifts at his size, but he can only use them for 20, 25 snaps because he'd get winded. And now he's, found the Peloton and he's gotten everything under control. The Eagles challenged him and he lived up to the challenge and more, and he gets that 3-year, $78 million extension. And he's going to be here through 2029. And I think it was, to me, these things are basically very ceremonial when they trot out players for, contract extensions. But, to me, the most important part was Jalen Carter was there to support him. Now he stayed in the area. Like a lot of times they say, well, why isn't Nolan Smith there? Why isn't, some of the other Georgia guys? Most of them aren't here.
Yeah, right. They don't stay in Philly all year.
No.
Yeah.
Now Jalen's been here working out in South Jersey because of his shoulders. So he was here and he came to support him. But I also think that was sort of a message to like, because there's been all these rumors about trading Jalen Carter, an indication the Eagles are trying to set out there. And also, you saw Schefter say they're not trying to trade Jalen Carter yesterday. That was, obviously a focused effort. So it's looking more positive that, it will be Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis long-term inside for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you could do a lot worse than that. I'm still concerned about Jalen Carter's long-term health, but there's nothing, other than, he didn't play as well last year and he went through the PRP therapy, and that's sort of strange, but Landon Dickerson went down to Medellin as well after they're doing a lot of strange stuff in the medical film. And so, I mean,
I got some intel on that for you, which I'm sure you're already aware of, but we talked to Dr. Chow about that yesterday. That's a little interesting, John. I'll just leave it at that. I'll tell you what he said, but
yeah, well, I'm interested. I'll have to listen to it.
It was a really good segment, not only on Crosby, but Cilio did get to Landon Dickerson, who, for those who don't know, Landon has now put out a similar video that he was down in Medellin, Colombia. I mean, John, the first thing that I noticed, all right, I don't know if this is because we're in the media business and I'm aware of how sponsorships work and things of that nature. I mean, these were sponsored posts, John. These Dickerson and Juergens thing. Clearly, I mean, they had like the whole, whatever the company was, Bio Accelerator or something, branded all over the place on their posting on social media.
Yeah.
And basically, Dr. Chow was like, if you're going out of the country, they're throwing a needle in a haystack. I mean, there's no way to confirm, what the cells are, how many are living, there's a lot of doctor terms he mentioned about the, basically how to confirm how good the stem cells you get are, because there's a wide range there, and it's not quite the same as doing it in the States. That's basically what he said.
Well, if you can't, you're only going outside if it's not approved inside. So,
right.
That's yeah. I mean, I
thought the paid sponsorship part of it was weird too.
Well, I mean, it is, it's a US based company, but they can't do, because when Cam got it done, I did some research into them. Like it's a US based company, I think in Colorado, but I'll double check again. But they can't do certain things in this country. They have to go outside the country. So they built this big time facility in Medellin, which allows you to do that. So, I mean, and I'm sure from Dr. Chow, he would know better than me, but I mean, I don't think it's any sort of scam. I think it's more of, look, we think this works and we're not allowed to do it in this country yet. So if you want to come and try something, come do. But it hasn't been, proven to be effective. It hasn't been tested. That's, there's a lot of hurdles you got to overcome in this country. I think people assume that everything's, because it's the United States, there's a lot of scripting here. And part of it is, well, you got to jump through so many hoops, and, you could be helping people in between if it really does work, but there's no way of knowing if it really does work. And anytime you go out and do something that's essentially experimental, at least as far as this country goes, well, that's not positive to the point that you have to go to that point. If you know what I mean. It's not positive that, all right, nothing here is working, so I have to go do this outside the country. That's how I kind of look at it. Now, if it's more of a maintenance thing and you say, all right, let me give it a try. But I think we saw the way Cam Juergens played last season, the way Landon Dickerson played last season. It certainly wasn't up to their particular standards. So I don't think it's just maintenance. I think it's trying to feel better, and hopefully it works.
Hopefully it does. Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy, is how we will say.
Yeah, no, it's not, but it's a hope is the strategy right now at edge rusher, at least for the fan base. We will find out what the Eagles end up doing. I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here today. A couple super chats before we move into segment number 2. Let's go to Bravo Zulu 6. What's up, man? I like that name. He says this is so funny. You guys are willing to pay Phillips, and he had a boatload of injuries, including a 2023 ruptured Achilles and a 2024 torn ACL. But OMG, Crosby is ruined. He will have a monster year.
I'm so interested what people hear. I just said I'm not paying Jalen Phillips $30 million.
I don't
just
think he's
said
talking
that.
about you, John. I think he's talking about the Eagles fan base.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, with Max Crosby, I'm not paying him $35 million. I mean, and giving up 2 first-round picks. I mean, I don't want to do that.
If the Ravens were willing to take just your one this year, should the Eagles entertain it?
I would not. I've said from the start I would not be in the Max Crosby sweepstakes. I've said from the start for a number of reasons. One, because they've beaten the shit out of him for 7 years. That is one. That's
we don't need him for 7 years. We need him to capitalize on the window we got for 2 or 3.
One, I don't think he's in the same category as Micah and Miles, so I'm not going that range for him. I just don't think he's the same player. I think he's at the next level.
6, right? I mean, they're not paying him like Micah. Micah's getting crazy.
I'm not going to 35. I'm not doing it.
I don't know. I just think about. I mean, Crosby.
I got to pay Jalen Carter. I got to pay Jalen Carter. Then if I got to pay, then I got to pay Jalen Carter 35, 36. Then I got to pay this guy. Then I got to pay that guy who's been here, who done that. I'm not going down that route. Now, I'm not saying Howie shouldn't or wouldn't or couldn't or it wouldn't even work. But I don't want to pay Jalen Phillips 30. I would have paid Trey Hendrickson 25. That's where I am, 25. Can I get Trey Hendrickson at 25?
Well, no. You're getting a Dafe Owe then, Johnny Mac. You're not getting a great player.
Well, I'm not. I don't want a Dafe Owe at 25. But if I can get Grenard at 25 and even give up a second or third round pick to do it, I'd do that.
I just don't know why Grenard would take 25. Jalen Phillips just got 30 million. You don't think?
Well, he's not a free agent. He doesn't have as much leverage. He's under contract. He's making $19 million a year. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He doesn't have enough leverage. So that's a margin you can win in. You can say, well, I can't get, and maybe you wipe out his final year and say, hey, come here. We'll sign you to a new deal, 1 year, $25 million. Then you're a free agent next year, and then you deal with it down the line. There's a lot of ways you can do it. But, they have to get somebody. Now, I realize people want the home runs. Now, and by the way, I didn't want Max Crosby before this. And now all the information comes out about the knee. I didn't want him before. Now, I'm certainly not going to want him after, because there's some big-time doctors who chimed in and said, look, I think Baltimore was unprofessional, but there's some big-time doctors who chimed in, Cooper from Dallas, who said, yeah, this is a fucking problem right here. And you're just going to dismiss those. And those guys are independent. They went outside. They had 4 or 5 independent doctors look at it. Not team doctors, which the team can, the team will do whatever you want them to do. They'll say, hey, pass them, don't pass them. But you got guys like Cooper who said, you might have some problems down the road with this. And I don't know. You guys talked to Dr. Chow. What were his concerns?
Yeah, his concerns were that it's not as simple as a meniscus trim, which a lot of people conflate with repair. And so he does think it's going to take some time to repair. But he also said, I mean, he can come back. It's just he's not surprised that Baltimore did what it did. And he likened it to this, John. This was the analogy that Dr. Chow used. When you buy a house, you enter into contract, right? And then you go into escrow. Once you go into escrow, you have the ability to get an inspection done on the home to approve the purchase. And if things don't check out, you can rescind the deal basically for no money that lost. He said that's basically what the Ravens have done here. They've done their inspection and it didn't pass up, and they wanted to, protect their assets that they gave up. So that's why they did it, and that was kind of how that was the analogy that he used for it. So
yeah, I think it's a good analogy. But I do think they got cold feet. I think they knew he was injured to begin with, and they were okay with it. And then they said, you know what, Trey Hendrickson's still available, and the market's lower than expected, and we don't have to give up 2 first-round picks. And they said, let's do that. I think that's what happened. But on the same, but there were concerns, and they knew the concerns, and they went ahead anyway. So I still think they were unprofessional. So I'm not trying to.
Yeah, me too. They definitely weren't. That's why they had to try out their GM yesterday to try and do damage control. That was 100% unprofessional. The other analogy that Dr. Chow used, John, for Max Crosby's meniscus is, when you trim it, he likened it to this. For NFL players, for when you play on grass, if you cut your lawn, with a lawnmower, you can go and play on that grass right away. However, if you resod the entire thing, you have to wait for the roots to set before you can go and play football on the grass. That's kind of what he likened it to with the meniscus. He's like, but this is not a trim of the meniscus. This is a repair. And it's kind of like relaying sod down. You have to let the roots set before you can go and play on it. So it's much different than a trim where people can get back in as little as, days or a week.
Yeah, it's always been the meniscus, the trims, or if you want to get them back that season, the full repairs they're going to be out for the entire season. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he talked any about the degenerative nature of it. That's a big issue. But remember, you're right to say that if you're thinking about things in 1-year windows, I mean, who cares about the long-term aspect of it? But I mean, obviously, Howie's not looking at things in 1-year windows either. She constantly tries to impress the people, but they don't generally latch on to it. So it's not all about the immediate gratification. But as I said before, all these problems, I was not in on Max Crosby. If I'm running the Eagles,
you've been consistent on this.
I'm just not going down that road. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm certainly not going to change my opinion now. But that there's evidence of what I said.
Yeah. In fact, you might feel more validated, John, which I can understand as well.
So, and I'm not dismissing he's been a great player. That's not the point. The point is he's been, and that's always the difficulty in the NFL now, because it's such big money. And you're like, this is one of the best players, the best edge rushers in the NFL, who wasted his career in a shitty organization. Sucks, but that's what's going on. And he's already not as good as he was. And I don't think that's turning around.
We will see what ends up happening with that. Bravo. Thank you, brother. Here's one more super chat from Prince. What's up, Prince? J-Mac, you can't judge the Seahawks. They lost almost all their secondary players from the Super Bowl team except for Joe. Well, Witherspoon, too. Was there.
Yeah, the best guy, the best one. Witherspoon's pretty good. I think you should start with him. But yeah, why can't I judge the Seahawks? I mean, they had a choice, Josh Jobe or Riq Woolen, and they chose Josh Jobe. They might be wrong. Why we judge the Eagles every day? Why can't we judge the Seahawks? What sense does that make? They have one of the best corners in football, just like the Eagles, and they couldn't afford both of the two who are free agents, and they decided on one, and they chose Josh Jobe, who Eagles fans should be familiar with, or somewhat familiar with. And he's turned into a pretty darn good player in Seattle, but certainly doesn't have the physical gifts that Riq Woolen has, but they chose Josh Jobe. And it's a good organization with a good general manager who's got 2 Super Bowl titles. John Snyder and Howie Roseman are friends and eerily similar as far as their resumes go. Building teams, building different teams, different quarterbacks, different coaches. Very good organization. Defensive-minded head coach. One of the best defensive minds in the NFL. Who's chiming in, and they chose Josh Jobe.
It's definitely fair to bring up. I think that's 100% fair. All right, everybody. Good opening segment here on Birds 365. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Plenty more to talk about. We're going to have Les Bowen in hour number 2. Looking forward to talking to Les after Jordan Davis spoke yesterday after the latest news from Jahad Campbell. And we still sit in limbo waiting for the Dallas Goedert deal. John added the caveat to that, or the context to that they've extended that. John, what's it called? Not the window, the when the contract voids, they pushed it from Tuesday to Friday.
Yeah, his contract was set to void Tuesday at midnight. They pushed that back to Friday afternoon. A little bit more time to work something out.
Which does feel like they're going to try and get something done then, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Do that for no reason, yeah.
Exactly. So, it always made sense if you're going to, there's a lot of David Njoku stuff out there. If you're going to sign him for $10 million why don't you bring Dallas Goedert back for $10 million? Because then you could kick the can down the road at least another year with all the void money, which is $20.5 million. So, makes no sense to go outside the organization, especially if you're saying, coming off a 13 touchdown season. Now, he wasn't as good as a blocker. That's fair to say. But now you have Johnny Munt here to do more of that.
More of the dirty work.
And maybe you could utilize Dallas and Grant Calcaterra a little bit better from a matchup standpoint.
Yeah, I'd be happy to bring back Dallas Goedert. I know he didn't have a perfect season last year, but I certainly think he's better than the alternatives that there are out there, including the guys in the NFL draft. I'm not sure they'll deliver like Dallas Goedert would this year. We will see what ends up happening there. John, in our next segment here, as we lead into Les Bowen, I want to take a look a little bit around the league. We've been very Eagle focused, but man, a lot has happened around the league, including, John, a lot in the NFC East. The Eagles division right here. Cowboys making a bunch of moves. They traded Osa last night to the San Francisco 49ers for a 3rd-round pick. Seems like they're trying to clear up for something. I don't know what it might be. Maybe it's a George Pickens super extension. They picked up the franchise tag on Pickens. They brought in Rashawn Gary, re-signed Sam Williams to a 1-year deal. They locked up Brandon Aubrey, I believe, or no, they did a tender on him or something. And then they have Jalen Thompson. They brought in the safety as well. So just kind of your thoughts. The Giants did a couple nice things. I thought the Giants did some good things as well. Isaiah Likely re-signed Evan Neal, brought in Tremaine Edmonds, Greg Newsome, Jermaine Illuminor. A couple guys there for the New York Football Giants. And then the Commanders, again, have like a laundry list of guys. They have signed Leo Chenal, Meek Robertson, Tress Way, punter, Dietrich Wise, Nick Allegretti, Laramie Tunsil, Treylon Burks, Marcus Mariota again, Kayvon Chason, Charles Omenihu. Quite a list there for the Washington Commanders. John, any of the teams, what sticks out to you from what the NFC East has done so far this offseason?
Well, I do think, John Harbaugh has shown up, and that my main takeaway would be the Giants are acting in a more professional fashion. Washington had a lot of money, so I'm kind of the opposite, where everybody, hey, Las Vegas is doing a great job in free agency. Tennessee's doing a great job. Washington's doing a great job. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, it's not, especially this year. So, and then in Dallas, they tried to make some big splashes. They tried to get Max Crosby. Didn't didn't work out for them typically and now that it could have been back in play, they bowed out and they got Rashawn Gary. He's sort of like Kenny Clark. He's a good player, not great player. And they're a good team, not a great team. That's how I describe them. The Dallas Cowboys. They got a good player in Rashad Gary, not a great player. They're a good team, not a great team. Whether, some of the consistency, I thought Brian Schottenheimer did a better job than most people expected. I know Philadelphia fans aren't going to want to give him the credit for that, but I thought he did a pretty good job. I think the Giants are finally heading in the right direction, but they have a long way to go because of how deep and dark they were. And I think Washington is it's funny that first year, new GM, everybody gave him a ton of credit. Now some of the inexperience is getting exposed. I don't like the way the Commanders are going as a whole. It's just my general thoughts about the division. And the Eagles have been kind of boring, which is rare for them, but it'll pick up. I mean, even the signings they do, the Riq Woolen signing, look at that. I mean, it's just massive upside for very little, risk. 1 year, $12 million. If it doesn't work, just move on.
Yeah, right. What do you think about what the Cowboys are doing? I know you've been beating them up, obviously, since they moved on from Micah Parsons. But I mean, if you take that out of the vacuum and just look at kind of how they've tried to retool, I do think they've done some good things, John. I mean, they have a decent defensive line now. They got a good interior, obviously good enough that they could trade away Osen. It doesn't feel like a huge loss. They have Kenny Clark, obviously. They have Quinnen Williams on the interior. Probably need a better edge rusher there in Philly, which is where I know you'll bring up, trading away one of the best in the game, which I understand, but signed a safety. And they brought back basically their whole offense, which was good to be the best offense in the league in football last year. So what do you make of kind of where the Cowboys are right now? It feels like they're returning to being at least a good or competent team. Doesn't mean they're going to have playoff success, but, they did have that stretch where it felt like they won 12 games every single year. It feels like they're getting closer to that.
They did.
How do you see it?
And they got Sam Howell. Don't forget that. So that could put them over the top. I mean, I'm like, you had 3 defensive tackles, so it's understandable, I guess, why they moved on. But why not move? I'd move on from Kenny Clark. I'd move on from the older guy, but they traded for him. They don't have a great edge situation. As I said, Gary will help, but they were trying to get a bigger profile one because look at who they're trying to replace. A lot is Overshown going to be healthy. I don't know, but he's a tremendous athlete. I did like what I saw from Ezeraku as a rookie. Maybe he can develop. They finally moved on from Trayvon Diggs, which I think they had to. Is Deron Bland ever going to get back to being what he was? I doubt it. Shaban Rebel, I know people are excited about. I mean, they're good, not great. That's what I said. They're a potential playoff team, but I don't look at them as a significant playoff contender. I mean, you also have to factor in they're going to get good quarterback play. They're going to get good quarterback play.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Eagles fans hate to hear that, but he's a good quarterback. So, that's going to elevate them to a certain level. But I don't look at them and say, wow, that's a Super Bowl contender. Unless you need a 65-yard field goal to win it, and maybe they have the advantage.
Maybe they got the advantage with Brandon Aubrey. Well, John, it feels like the Eagles have been kind of a couple steps ahead of everybody else. Do you think the Eagles are back closer to the pack here, or has the pack gotten closer to the Eagles in the NFC East? I mean, it does feel like that to me. How about you?
Well, because it's March 12th, and the Eagles haven't cooked yet. I expect them to get an edge rusher. Can't tell you where. Can't tell you who. I mean, I expect them, the upside with, they can afford to do that. You know, they can afford to roll that dice because they have because they have, like you said, he's going to play with 2 all pros, you know. Makuba's got to get better in the second year. Campbell's got to get better. And we're talking about injuries with both of them. Makuba with his fractured fibula and Campbell now with a shoulder injury. They got to get better in their second years. Jalen Hunt's got to keep getting better. Nolan Smith's got to keep getting better. Jordan Davis has got to maintain what he did last year at least. Jalen Carter's got to prove he's healthy, but they still got a ton of talent on defense. That's the scary part. From an opponent standpoint. Offensively, I don't know what to think, to be honest. I don't agree with anything they're trying to do offensively. Anything. I'm building around the quarterback. I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care if you think it's ugly. I'm building around the damn quarterback. As long as he's my quarterback, I'm building around him. I'm not telling him to do shit he's not comfortable with. I don't understand it. Do I want him to get better at certain things? Sure. You try that in the off season. You try to elevate. You try to evolve. You try to get better. That's what all players do. But when you get to the games, you build around what they do best. Not go, I'm going to pound this square peg because WIP says I should.
It's almost so obvious, John. It doesn't feel like they're gonna change as much as we thought.
But they have made clear signs of changing more. Most notably, Jeff Stoutland. But I don't know. And then where's AJ going to be? Anybody still on that train? They're like Homer Simpson going into the bush. There's a list of teams he'll go to. Jimmy Sexton's out in Indianapolis asking who's interested. Anybody still think, we're making it all up? Doesn't want to play here. Doesn't want to be in that style of offense, which is fine. But, then you got to move on. If you got to wait till June 2nd, wait till June 2nd. Get what you can. Move on. But build around the fucking quarterback.
I'm with you on that, John. I don't understand why they wouldn't, to the point where I still believe they're going to, because the way you explain it almost makes it sound so idiot proof that the idea of them not doing that would just be straight up asinine, would be blasphemy. Right.
Well, that's why I scratch my head on what the hell they're doing. And that's why I say offensively, I don't know what they're going to be. I know everybody thinks they're going to be great because they think they have the best talent. And they want to force.
Well, there's still a chance too that they don't change as much as anticipated. I know the Jeff Stoutland thing is a big indication, but I don't know. You've added some context to that. I heard Adam Kaplan. We had him on the National Football Show with Celia, where he added some context. Stoutland really took it the wrong way when Nick stepped into the run.
Oh, that's true.
And that's not.
That's true.
That's a Jeff Stoutland problem. Look, I love Stout, and I'm not trying to crap on him, but it's the head coach. If the head coach wants to talk to you about the running game or make some changes because you've been ineffective all year, that to me is normal and obvious, quite frankly. So if Jeff Stoutland had a real problem with that to the point where he didn't want to be here anymore, well, that's Jeff Stoutland's problem. That doesn't tell me that they're going to change everything.
No, but I didn't mean strictly Jeff Stoutland, and I'm glad Adam said that because now, maybe some people will believe it, but it's more of what they did last year and what they're trying to do this year that got him to that point. There was ego involved from the point of, look, Jeff Stoutland, his reputation, blah, blah, blah. And the head coach can do what the head coach wants to do. All of that I agree with. However, they're bringing in Sean Mannion to run a stretch running game. They're bringing in Ryan Mahaffey to run the stretch running game, to do what San Francisco does, to do what the Rams do, to do what the Vikings do. The McVay, Shanahan, O'Connell, yada, yada, yada bullshit. That's what they're doing. That's what they did last year. They just didn't have the expertise to pull it off. Because they did it in season, they hadn't practiced it, they didn't go through a training camp. In theory, that's what they're trying to do. However, I don't agree. And that doesn't even get into the passing game. Under center, play action. I mean, what are we doing? You gotta it's ironic because people criticize me for hating on Jalen Hurts because I constructively criticize him. And then I got to go back and say, look, you fucking morons want him to play under center and play action like he's Jared Goff. He's a unique player who's made 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl, is on a Hall of Fame trajectory, one of the winningest quarterbacks over a 5-year span in history. Certainly the winningest year. And if you're so off put by how ugly the offense is, fine, then go change the fucking quarterback. Don't ruin the quarterback while you drown yourself. It's absurd to me that this is even a conversation. But that's what expectations do. Like 11 wins becomes 5 wins. If I were Howie Roseman, if I were running the Eagles, I'd go, oh, you know what? Freaking Cam wasn't healthy. Freaking Landon wasn't healthy. Lane missed half the season, essentially. Boy, I gotta make sure these guys have something left. And if they don't, I gotta repopulate my offensive line. And then I'm fucking doubling down. And I don't care how ugly it looks. And if AJ's not on board, AJ's going somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But that all evidence is that's not what they're doing. Like their assumption is teams caught up to them. My assumption is teams caught up to them because Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson were injured. Like everybody knew what they were doing before.
Right.
Couldn't stop it.
But there is a level of teams catching up to teams in the NFL. You'd agree with that, right?
No, and that's the pushback I get. Well, you got to evolve. You can't still. There's nothing that says you can't evolve in the crux of what you do.
Yeah, right. That's where I am. Like evolve what you do. I don't think we need to reinvent the entire wheel here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where I completely agree with you.
I mean, Jalen, to say there's been no evolution in Jalen Hurts from 2021 to 2025 is ludicrous.
Oh, it's
You've
ludicrous.
seen it.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. Yeah, 100%.
So, yes, the framework from the offense has been very similar since Game 7 in 2021 till last season. Yes. But to say there's been no evolution within that framework is just false.
But, well, it's going to be interesting, John. Thursday here, free agency week. It's been a fun week, John, already this week in the NFL world as things happen everywhere. And I still have pause on where the Eagles are at this point. I mean, I still think there's obviously a lot of time, but considering everything you just mentioned with the offense, considering some of the departures on the defense, it feels like the Eagles are kind of teetering, like they could open the window back up, or that thing could slam shut. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but it feels like that could happen too.
Yeah. Well, anything can happen, but I do think it's never a good approach to pretend like 11 wins is a failure, and that's what essentially the Eagles have done. Now that's a fine dividing line as well. It's good to have urgency, but you know, I think they've taken it a little bit too far offensively. It's just my opinion.
Well, we'll see what they do here with the new offense. I'm not sure if it'll be as big as we were thinking though, John. Right? I mean, it could not be.
Well, ultimately, I've said from the start as well. Once they get into the season, Nick will do what it takes to win a game. So if it's not working, he will scale back to what you've seen, or at least a familiar part of it, certainly in the passing game. The running game, they seem hell-bent on changing for whatever reason, ironically. I that's even more. You kind of understand it with the passing game because the passing game has been nondescript and whatever, average at best. Kind of understand it with the passing game. With the running game, I mean, they had a great running game with Miles Sanders, a great running game with DeAndre Swift, a great running game with Saquon Barkley. And now throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, all right. But to me, again, they seem to think that, well, and that's another thing I've often said. Well, I don't want to be the copycat. I want people that are going to think for themselves. I don't like groupthink. I don't like, Kyle Shanahan. I want to follow Kyle Shanahan. I want to follow Sean McVay. Everybody does that. Then it becomes who does it best of the 15 teams that does it. And you're not going to do it better.
That is Kyle's probably going to be the one that does it best.
Exactly. You're not going to do it better than those guys. So that I have a big problem with that. And yeah, did Stout's ego get the best of him? Yeah, probably. So maybe you had to move on from him anyway. But look, if and Chris Cooper will be he will, his reputation will explode for one reason, and that's if Cam Jurgens is healthy, Landon Dickerson is healthy, and Lane Johnson is healthy. Chris Cooper's going to look like a damn good offensive line coach. A damn good offensive line coach.
You're right about that. Let's see what happens. All right, John, some rapid fire here before we get to Les Bowen. Brandon Graham hinted at a return for season 17 yesterday when he was at the Dick Vermeil thing, the same thing that Vic Fangio was at. And he said he hopes to win another Super Bowl in his final year. Yes or no? Eagles bring back Brandon Graham, and should they bring back Brandon Graham?
I don't think they should. I've said that in the past. Will they? I think that depends on, where they are. I think that's later. That's like a May, June after the draft conversation.
Right.
I don't think they'll want to take it into the season this time. And if somebody gets hurt, call them back. But so I think they'll make the decision, closer to the summer. Do they have enough bodies? Can he still be that fourth rotational guy? Remember, he's very versatile too. So he helps. Last year he started playing inside quite a bit. But I mean, I think it's a young man. You got to get younger. It's always difficult to move on from franchise legends, but sometimes you got to rip off the Band-Aid. I think you got to rip off the Band-Aid.
All right, next rapid fire. Jalen Carter. Extending him this offseason, or is there too much smoke around the trade rumors? Where are you leaning more after what you've gathered on Jalen Carter?
They're trying to extend him as we speak. But I think they're trying to Eagles extend him. And by that, I mean, try to get the best, team-friendly deal possible. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, that's going to be tough for him to take. I mean, they didn't give Jordan Davis a team-friendly deal.
Yeah, I mean, early in the process, they're looking for, a bit of a, they're okay setting the market. They've done that numerous times. They did it with Jalen Hurts. They set the quarterback.
But what's that number to you? Is it 32, 33 million, 30 million, 29? Where is it?
Well, what is Chris Jones?
I think Chris Jones is 31. I'll look for you.
I mean, he's the guy. You got to go. You got to go above that.
31.75 average annual value.
So if you go to 33, 34, I think they get it done. If I'm Jalen Carter, again, I don't know his health. If he's healthy, if I'm Jalen Carter, I'll wait. I'd wait a year. But that's a lot of money to walk away from. So that's sort of the give and take. The trade, the Micah stuff is, I put that aside because of what they think of him as a player. That's sort of like an outlier. The Crosby stuff, I don't know how real that was. I don't think it was real. So I don't think there's, but once the name goes out there, and I think there's one report where the Eagles were getting calls about Jalen Carter, then it becomes the Howie situation. Well, it's my job to listen. And hey, look, I think I've said it on the show. I think it's a legitimate conversation to have. If you can get 2 first-round picks for Jalen Carter, would you rather have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis? That's it. Or would you rather have Jordan Davis, Moro Jomo, and 2 first-round picks?
What would you rather have?
I'd rather have a healthy Jalen Carter. I just don't know what he's going to be.
Which is what makes it a tough.
Yeah.
Because if he's healthy, there's zero world that I'm letting that guy out the building. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, the guy is so damn talented. Like you always say, John, you want first round. You'll be lucky if 2 first-round picks equal the talent of that player. Now, he has to do it on the football field, obviously, but I don't know. You're going to get 2 first-round picks that make up for that talent. So we'll see. All right, a couple more chats here, and then we will get to Les Bowen. Crowley says this. What's the likelihood the Eagles draft a cornerback in the first round? 0.
0 now. Just signed Riq Woolen.
Yeah, I mean, they have Cooper DeJean, they have Quinyon Mitchell, and they have Riq Woolen all under contract. I don't see why a cornerback would even be a thought, right?
Yeah, that position is off the board now. Yeah, day 3, take any position, but I mean, early that position is off the board.
How has this week shifted what you think of the draft? Same thing, O-line, tackle, edge.
Yeah. O-line. Well, they haven't done much yet. So, I mean, all they've done is bring in Tariq Woolen and Johnny Munt. So, I mean, but if they re-signed Dallas Goedert, obviously, and they also brought back Grant Calcaterra already, that shifts the tight end thought on day 1 and day 2. Cornerback, yeah. Cornerback is off the board day 1 and day 2. Other than that, and obviously edge defender right now, if they can't get anything done, it becomes more of a consideration even. Last thing you want to go in is with a significant need like that in a year where you want to populate the offense more. But if they don't get something done there, they almost have to go edge rusher. But I think they'll get something done.
We'll see. John, who's the edge rusher on the market that would put the Eagles over the top? Or make you go?
Grenard.
Would he do that for you? Would he be?
I love the player.
Yeah,
I think Eagles fans are going to be thrilled if they get him.
It almost feels like Eagles fans are sleeping on Jonathan Grenard a little bit. I've seen a lot.
Well, I don't think they've seen him play. I don't think they've seen him play.
He can play, man. He's a good player.
He's explosive too. He's an explosive pass, and that's what they want. They want the pass. I mean, he's always around the quarterback.
And how's he fit with the Vic Fangio D?
Well, he played for Brian Flores, which is so
Right.
he's good with the chaos stuff. It's got to be more disciplined with Vic. So we'll see. That's to be determined. I don't think it's a great fit on paper, but like I said about Vic, he has a way of getting the best out of people. And he'll focus on his pass rush strength, and try to utilize him that way. But he's a big time pass rusher. Incredibly quick, incredibly athletic. Eagles fans will love him.
I think they'd like him a lot too. Here's Abe. What's up, Abe? Appreciate you, brother. J-Mac, when Jordan Davis was talking about John in the media room, was it about you? I appreciate you and Zander greatly. Keep it going, fellas. Abe, thank you, brother.
No, he's talking about John Ganode, who's one of the Eagles PR people. So he's talking about his first day. John is one of the people that, he got close to because they handled him. So no, I wasn't. I was there the first day Jordan Davis was there, but I don't work with him every day. John Ganode works with him every day.
Good stuff there. Abe, thanks for the chat, brother. Appreciate that. Good to see Jordan Davis yesterday. Jalen Carter was in the building. John, you mentioned that. I did think that was relevant. Had a similar thought process there. Maybe a show of leadership, a show of, support from Jalen Carter for his buddy Jordan Davis. And a big congrats to Jordan Davis. That is a pretty awesome deal for him to get. Let's see if he becomes a 3-down player. We will see. John, my one caveat with that, real quick, before we're going to have Les Bowen here soon, so I don't want to get into a long conversation on it, but my one caveat with that is, like you brought up when they immediately signed him, all right, it's easy to say now he's going to be a 3-down player, but when it's actually 3rd and 8 and Moro, Jomo, Jalen Carter, and Jordan Davis are on the sideline, who does Vic Fangio put on the field? And that question to me is very relevant because, like you say, Vic's not going to give a shit about the contract. Vic is going to put the best players on the field for the situation. That's why I wonder, does Howie get ahead of that and maybe try and organize that room a little bit better before the start of the season?
Yeah, I don't think so in the short term. I think they're fine in the short term, but long term, obviously, you're only going to have 2 of them, and it'll take care of itself, unless you draft another good one, which is possible. They got Moro in the 7th round, so. But next year, I mean, if it's 3rd and 10, yeah, Jalen Carter, if he's healthy, and Moro Jomo, if he's healthy, are going to be the pass rushers, the interior pass rushers. There's no question about that. It's not even a debate.
Well, so what's up with the projection of a 3-down? Is that just future then after this year?
That's future. Well, and he'll continue. I mean, he got better at it last year. And I think, he's out there occasionally because Jalen was hurt and did a good job when he was out there, and he's getting better at it. But, if you have all 3 healthy, it'd be a dereliction of duty not to have Carter and Jomo. That'd be like saying, well, it's 1st and 10. Let's put a Jomo at, 1 technique. You're not doing that.
Yeah, I love when you reverse it because it just makes it sound so insane.
Well, I mean, that's how you have to think about it. I mean, you fit him, and it's Vic's role. Vic's role is not to sign the contracts. Vic's role is who he has, take advantage of who he has. As long as he has Jalen Carter and Moro Jomo, they're going to be the interior pass rushers. Now, long term, he's not going to have a Jomo, most likely, after next season, and then you'll see more of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, in theory. Maybe Ty Robinson develops. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know about that. We will find out. We will see what ends up happening there. John, Dallas Goedert, I know we mentioned him earlier in the show. I saw somebody say they didn't see us mention it. So just real quick, they did extend that window to Friday, which basically means to me that all indications are pointing toward them trying to get a deal done. What do you think that deal looks like with Dallas Goedert if it does come today or tomorrow with the Birds?
Similar to last year, 1 year, 10 million-ish. Somewhere in that
Would
range.
2 years be dumb?
Well, it wouldn't be dumb from a cap standpoint if you want to keep kicking the money down the road. But yeah, I think it would be dumb. I mean, at some point you got to move on. they should have moved on already, to be honest, but they didn't. For all of Howie's
the reason I think it wouldn't be dumb is I don't see there's nobody in the room right now. Now if they draft a tight end high in the
you got Johnny Munt in the room.
I mean, you know what I mean. I mean a certified guy to become tight end one. Like, it was very obvious why they moved on from Zach Ertz when they did. Well, they had drafted Goddard, and everybody was basically waiting for him to become the tight end one. That doesn't exist right now in Philly. So, hey, give him a couple years, maybe draft a tight end in round 2 or 3 this year, or I guess next year could become a possibility, and let him develop for a year, and then hand it over to him, hand the reins over to him.
We don't have Les yet.
He emailed me back like 10 minutes ago, so he should be
really?
good.
Oh,
yeah, he emailed me back 8:52. Thanks, Zander. So he should be on.
All right, we'll see. All right. I think it's fair to say that, how he gets so many flowers. Occasionally take a flower away and say, dude, you should have had a better plan for heir apparent at tight end. I think he knows that. He admitted that. And he also admitted that, he got too caught up in the receiving type tight ends, and he likes that. And he likes those guys. Nobody likes the blockers, but you need one. I do, by the way, the Eagles were in on Charlie Kolar. That would have been the home run.
Yeah, I saw him. Where did he sign? I saw the name come
Chargers.
Chargers.
But you need those guys, especially if you're going to run the scheme the Eagles are planning to run. You need a tight end who can set the edge, and there aren't a ton of tight ends who can block anymore. And Dallas had a poor season in that aspect, but he did have the 13 touchdowns if you include the playoff game, and he's been a great player for a long time. Got a couple more days to work something out. It'd make more sense to bring him back than sign David Njoku, because, you got 20.5 million of dead money just sitting there if you don't re-sign him. So would you re-sign Dallas Goedert for 1 year and 10 million, or give David Njoku a Riq Woolen contract 1 year?
Yeah, I'm good with Goddard. I'd stick with Goddard, but that's me personally. Quarterback likes him. Quarterback knows him well. I'd keep continuity in a season where there's a lot of change on the offensive side, especially with the coaching staff. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Johnny Mac, I want to thank everybody for being here today. 999 of you watching. Let's get to 1,000. Come on, we need one more person in here to bust over the 1,000 mark. Don't forget to hit that like button. We appreciate all you guys watching, sharing, subscribing, and being a part of JAKIB Nation. So thanks for watching the show today, and a big thanks to Fritz Bianculli Law Firm for sponsoring the JAKIB Sports Birds 365 program today. Let's go to Les Bowen, who's set to join us here on Birds 365. He joins us right now. Les, welcome to the program, man. Thursday of the new league year. It kicks off with a bang this week. How you doing this morning, Les?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. Happy New Year, Les. What do you think? First things, obviously, priority was Jalen Phillips. Didn't get it done. No contingency yet on the edge. Do get a high-level upside type of cornerback in Riq Woolen, Johnny Munt, a blocking tight end, and a bunch of guys we thought they would lose. They ultimately lose. So your early thoughts on the new league year?
Well, Jalen Phillips, it's interesting. I look at social media and what fans have to say, and almost anybody that the Eagles don't get or that they lose, that somebody outbids them for, usually there are people that are, oh, gee, why couldn't they have done that? Nobody in the media, nobody in the fan base thinks they should have given Jalen Phillips $30 million a year. That's just an extraordinary. I know, contracts go up, and it's
a lot, yeah.
But that's just incredible. That's way beyond what anybody projected for him in free agency, and I wonder who the hell Carolina was bidding against at that figure. Frankly, I can't imagine the Eagles even wanted to go close to that. But it's unfortunate because they weren't in great shape on the edge anyway. And now they're in worse shape on the edge. And I tried to make a point when that happened. Nakobe Dean had not agreed to terms yet with the Raiders. And my thought was, you're trying to sort out your pass rush here. Well, Nakobe was incredibly efficient as a blitzer last year.
Yes, he was.
And if you were to bring him back, you might want to think more about Jahad Campbell doing some edge stuff. You would have Nakobe's blitzing capability, and you might have something from Jahad Campbell as an edge guy. And people were like, oh, no, they drafted Jahad Campbell to play. You must not sign Nakobe Dean. Oh, that would be horrible, And now Jahad Campbell's had shoulder surgery. So I don't know. The Nakobe
Vic is too honest.
I said it. Honest Vic strikes again, Les.
Yes. It's like he's like a throwback to the way the league was 20 years ago. When if players had surgery, they actually told you these things, like common knowledge. But
my concern is that related to his original shoulder injury from last year.
Yes.
Because he came out of Alabama with the labrum surgery, and that's one of the reasons the Eagles got him at 31. Jahad Campbell, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you remember the whole narrative last year, Les. He's gonna miss the entire offseason. He's gonna be there late in training camp, and then all of a sudden he's there day one in training camp, and we're like, wow. Well, in hindsight,
that worked
maybe
out
pushed
great.
it. Yeah, maybe pushed it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, obviously they know what they're doing. My point has been, and I have a hard time getting this across on social media because everything is either, drastic. Nobody wants any nuanced anything. But
oh God, no! It's all extremes, Les.
Yes, exactly. It's all extremes. We all knew a lot of this was coming, but that doesn't mean that it's good or that the Eagles are a better team. The fan base sort of has a, well, Howie will figure something out sort of attitude. But in fact, they had this incredibly good roster 2 years ago, the best roster in Eagles history, I would say. And it wasn't quite as good this last year. Do you think last year's team, I understand the rationales, but do you think last year's Eagles would have been a little better with Josh Sweat and Mekhi Becton? And again, you're losing guys that maybe you're not going to really be replacing very well. And, the talent level just kind of, that's the way the league is set up. But that doesn't mean that everything's going to be wonderful,
No, it doesn't. You bring up an interesting
it's 2 straight
point.
years left of just good players on defense leaving. Now, you can argue they made the right decisions, but for a defensive football team that's won with their defense, it is, it strikes me the same way as it strikes you. So we will see what they end up doing. Speaking of the defensive line, though, Les, what'd you make of the Jordan Davis contract, man? That is a big deal for Jordan Davis. He spoke yesterday. What was your reaction to that contract?
Obviously they're projecting a much bigger future for Jordan Davis, which is kind of interesting in that it's not like he just showed up last year. Last year was his rookie year or something. He's been here for a while. Last year was the first year he was in shape, which, but yeah, obviously they're projecting. I mean, the contract was unprecedented for someone who plays as few snaps as he plays. And they're projecting that he's going to play more snaps, and that's going to go well, and he's going to get more pass rush pressure and yada. And I guess we'll see how that goes. I wouldn't like to – it's good to have him locked up. I mean, the money aside, he is a key cog, a leader, a spokesman, all that stuff John knows. And I guess you had to do it, but the money is that's money that you're not spending. Some of it, if they did overpay, there's money that's not being spent in other areas that's going to old Jordan. So Jordan's going to have to be a 3-down player, I think, a lot. Don't you guys think?
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, he's got to be a 3-down player. With that money, he's got to be a 3-down player. And my concern short term, look, we all know Vic. We just talked about Vic. Vic is going to do what Vic wants to do to win a football game. So if it's 3rd and 13 less, and he's still got Jalen Carter and Moro Ajomo, and they're healthy, they're going to be on the field as the interior pass rushers on 3rd down. That's the way it's going to work.
Maybe Jordan on the edge then, because they don't have anybody there.
Well, maybe. I assume they're going to get an edge guy, but that,
and you brought up Josh Sweat. How good does that deal now look in hindsight? $19 million. That's a bargain, Les.
Thank you. Yeah, that, and I understood it at the time, but a year later,
yeah.
Everything goes up.
Nice
I mean, like if Josh was this year, he'd make more money. You know, the guy they might acquire, Jonathan Grenard, he got signed to a big deal a couple of years ago. The reason he's on the trade market is because Minnesota has salary cap issues, and he wants more money because the edge rushing market has exploded. So
yeah.
I mean, that's unfortunately the way it works. You brought up, I'm going to ask you this because you're uniquely qualified to answer this question. You've been here the entire time with Howie Roseman. Have you ever seen anything like it, Les? I mean, this guy, when he first started, he's not a football guy. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And now everybody's in the camp. And don't get me wrong, Howie's one of the best GMs in football. But now everybody's like, Howie will figure it out. Howie will do this. Have you ever seen a ship like that?
No. Well, the Eagles had never won any Super Bowls. And now they've won 2 with him as the GM who put the teams together. And I think in both cases, there was skill and luck involved, frankly, in some of his signings and so forth. But that's the kind of cred you get, I guess. You've got this is a franchise that for forever had only appeared in 2 Super Bowls, in 80 and 2004. And suddenly they've been in 3 in the last decade and won 2 of them. So but you're right. Howie's ascendance, he was kind of Joe Banner's protege.
Yeah.
And he learned a lot from Joe. And then more or less played a role in kicking Joe to the curb.
It's a cutthroat world, Les.
Yeah. His first couple drafts were not good. They had a whole lot of, that was an era when they were stocking up on like 6th and 7th round picks. And they thought this was like really smart. And they were trying to find starters in the 6th and 7th round, Jamar Chaney and guys like that, and it didn't, that strategy did not work. And then the chip years came and Howie got kicked out, and then he came back. And, since then, his signature move when he came back was moving up for Carson Wentz. But he's navigated the ups and downs as well as anybody in the business. And certainly they have, with Jeff Lurie and Howie, I think that's an important distinction to make. I think the 2 of them together, they're always on the same page, I think. And the owner is very involved, and the general manager and the owner see things the same way, philosophically and in every other way. And I think that's an effective, combo there. That really works well. It doesn't mean, though, that they're never going to be a bad team again. I mean, it really doesn't. Yeah. If you look at, everybody thinks John Schneider, because the Seahawks won again this year. John Schneider is a genius, but how'd the Seahawks look between the highlight of the high times of the Russell Wilson era and last season? The Seahawks.
Well, those 2 are a great comparison because they're friends. Yeah. They came in at the same time. They both have won multiple Super Bowls and sort of rebuilt different quarterbacks, different coaches. So very similar. And I think that's what I wanted to fold into it, was the Riq Woolen signing, who comes from Seattle. Now, Seattle, as you say, great general manager, defensive-minded head coach, one of the best defenses in football last season, en route to winning that Super Bowl, basically had to make a decision, Josh Jobe, who we know well, or Riq Woolen, and they said, we want Josh Jobe. Now, I've heard so many good things about Riq Woolen. Tremendous athlete, length, played at a Pro Bowl level. The next-gen stats, I don't know if you've seen them last. He can do this, he can do that. The first thing that went to my mind was, why did he get only 1 year and $12 million?
Well,
at 26 years old, by the way.
Were you watching that playoff game against the
Rams? I was.
And what happened there?
Yeah, Ross Tucker was talking about it. He was actually on the field doing
and that was one of the best. Ross, that was really very vivid and very very thorough. And I think watching it at home, you felt that was about what you felt. What is this idiot doing?
The game was over by that point. He gave him a little bit of life. That didn't go anywhere, but.
Oh my God! And Ross was exactly right. The referee was like trying to no, stop, and he was not going to stop. He was going to make sure everybody on that sideline got taunted, and then he got that penalty. And you got to really wonder about a guy like that. What do you not understand? And it wasn't his only taunting penalty of the season. I think he and Nick Sirianni are an interesting combo.
Yeah, that's
maybe they can taunt in tandem.
They're giving Dom a lot of work, man. They're giving Dom a lot of work.
But he has incredible. I mean, 6'4". If it weren't for this sort of stuff, I think he'd be somebody you wouldn't have a shot at signing. But they signed him for 1 year, and I don't know the guy at all. Personally, of course, but the fact that your market was 1 year, $15 million, when you have all this talent and corner is such a crucial position in the NFL, maybe that's a wake-up call to you. Maybe you kind of look at that and think, I better cut the crap. I better get things together here. And really, if I'm going to make real, giant long-term money from somebody, I better.
I think it's very low risk from the Eagles standpoint. I mean, if it works, great. If it doesn't, you just move on. But I for the people that have gone overboard to social media, I don't know if you got, and I've gotten a ton of it. They got the best trio of cornerbacks. This is a Pro Bowl level. I'm like, Pro Bowl level quarterbacks get Trent McDuffie money, $30 million a year. Yeah. That's what they get. That's the first thing my antenna raised. I said, if this guy's this good, he's 26 years old. That's exactly who gets paid in free agency. Jalen Phillips is 26 years old. He got $30 million.
Yeah. Well, I think he is that good, but he's also kind of an idiot. And, I think we'll see how it all works out. I think he has the talent. And the Eagles have had that kind of situation back there before. A guy who has a ton of talent and can't quite, stop taking penalties in one case of a very talented corner they have. So it's the best move they've made. I mean, they haven't done much, so that's right up there. I would love to see them. I know this runs against. There's a crisis right now in the league with offensive line play and offensive line depth.
Oh, yeah.
But if there's a team that needs some offensive line depth, it would be the Eagles. Yeah. And I just keep, they're bidding farewell to Brett Toth and Matt Pryor. And
I think Brett Toth bid farewell because Jeff Stoutland bid farewell.
That's another factor in all this.
Yeah.
What kind of offensive lineman does this new guy like?
And also, what can he do with them? I mean, Les, I think the one thing that's been true for 10 years in Philly is if a player was going to make it in the NFL at offensive line, Eagle fans felt like Jeff Stoutland was going to get it out of him. Now, he's not magic. He couldn't make Andre Dillard. Like there's certain instances,
Right.
but if a player had it, we knew Jeff Stoutland was going to get it out of him. I don't know if we have that confidence anymore, and it's a fair question at this point.
You know, I'm astonished that this happened. I haven't talked to you guys since Stout left. You know, I understand all the talk about they want to run outside zone and Stout doesn't like this and Stout doesn't like that. Are these things not negotiable in any way? I mean, if Nick hadn't totally alienated Stout during the season, could this not have been papered over in some respect? That's a horrible loss to the organization to me. And this is a guy that the Vikings didn't want back as their offensive line coach. Maybe he's a genius. I don't know, but
I think he will be a genius. I'll tell you what, if Landon Dickerson is healthy and Cam Jurgens is healthy and Lane Johnson is healthy, he will turn into a genius, but I don't know if that's going to happen. The first
I don't want to hijack your questions or anything, John, but I have one for you. Watching this all season long, I kept wondering, was there no way to like sit Dickerson and Jurgens for a while? Yeah, you would have really struggled up front, but I think fans would have understood that if the offense didn't look good with subs playing, rather than just running them out there week after week and getting the same results. Was there not an amount of rest that would have helped them during the season? It just seemed so weird to me. I know they didn't talk to you guys at all. They didn't let Stout talk to you guys at all. But was there no sense that maybe you could do something here rather than just watch these guys flounder every week?
Well, I think, part of it is, and Landon talked occasionally. Cam talked occasionally too. Lane stopped talking. But that was related to, he thought, that was the Giants game. He did an interview with Josina Anderson, and everybody took it the wrong way. And I think he got upset about that. But those guys, Landon and Cam, talked occasionally when they were healthy-ish. Those two guys, I mean, they're going to fight through stuff. They just are. Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to have to step in and stop for their own good. And where's that dividing? I think they should have done what you said, at least tried it, and the irony is we just brought up Brett Toth, who signed with San Francisco. Good luck to Brett. Good dude. I thought he played well last year. And you could have maybe been better than you think. When he was forced to play, he played pretty well. And if you would have given them, but their mentality, I remember when Cam came back from his knee injury and he had this big brace on, his mentality, he's got to go out there. He's got to be out there. I think that's a lot of offensive linemen. Yeah. It's like a tough tightrope to. I'm with you. I think they should have sat them down and said, all right, we're going to give you a couple weeks. But if it's chronic, in the case of, while you're going to Medellin to get stem cells, I mean, is 2 weeks going to help you? I don't know that either.
That's the question. Yeah, or even 4 weeks. I mean, maybe that's the answer, that they just couldn't get out of. This is what happens to teams after winning the Super Bowl when you play 21 games into mid-February. You said it yourself, John. That was you put it very well. Maybe the last time I was on, or time before last, when you said, we were so worried about grinding down Saquon.
Yeah,
really was grinding down the offensive line.
Yeah,
and I think that's really true, because even Mailata didn't play as well as he played the year before. Maybe it's just one of those things. Maybe you just had to go through it, but again, as we were speaking earlier about the roster, and it's a little bit less dominant each season now, I still feel like hell of a blown opportunity in 2025.
I agree with that.
They had, they certainly could have beaten San Francisco. I don't know about Seattle, but
Well, I think they would have beaten. I'm stunned. I'm still stunned they lost to that San Francisco team simply because they were so banged up. San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then if they would have won that game, they would have went to Chicago. I think that's a very winnable game.
Yeah.
And then, probably lose to Seattle. If it went that way, but that still would have been a nice run. So I agree. I thought
the season would have felt a lot different.
Yeah.
If that had been the case,
Yeah. And because I get the feeling, I say it all the time on the show, Les, they won 11 games. They act like they won 5, at times.
Yeah.
Which not necessarily a bad thing from an urgency standpoint, but I'll throw that out you and make sure you follow Les at Les Bowen on the X platform. Read him at PHLY. Still doing a nice job over there. This whole shift in offense, and it's pretty clear by the moves. We've talked about Stout. They're bringing in this new running scheme. They're trying to copy Shanahan, McVay, that group, which it seems like half the league is trying to copy. But I got to tell you, Les, they've had a lot of success building around a unique quarterback. And now, granted, I'm the first to say, look, the passing game is ugly at times. It's not exciting. It's not sexy, whatever adjective you want to use. But they're damn successful building around Jalen Hurts. And all of a sudden, we want to turn them into Jared Goff and play action. And I don't understand the set. I don't understand the mentality. Like if AJ's upset and he doesn't want to play in the offense, and he doesn't, all right, fine. We'll go in a different direction. They've had so much success building around this quarterback. Why? If they're going to go that way, and all indications are they're going to go that way, why?
Well, on the outside looking in, the best I can do is say they feel like other teams have figured them out, that the things that they have done effectively in the past have really been studied and taken apart, and that they need to do different things. And I feel like they do need to do some different things. I don't feel like they really need to change everything. I would like to see, some motion and play action and things like that. But it is a big swing, and you kind of wonder, it doesn't have to work. It might not. When you're changing, you get into things like we were saying about what type of offensive lineman you need for this, and what you need here and what you need there and what you have. It's like we were talking a few months ago about if Fangio retired. And they were talking about Jim Schwartz, and our point was, I think we talked about this on here, that you would need entirely different players to play that scheme. And I hope that isn't true of this offense. We'll see, I guess. But it is a big change. And I think it's because they feel like they're not going to get the results that they had previously, that teams had made adjustments. I don't know if that's the case, but that's got to be the answer.
I agree. I think that's the belief, and I'm of the mentality that I think they struggled because of what we just talked about previously. I think if Cam was healthy, if Landon was healthy, if Blaine was healthy, I think they would have been in the NFC Championship game, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. I think it had more to do with that than teams catching up to them. I mean, those are three dominant players.
The Shanahan thing is kind of as you said, the offense of the moment, and how Jeffrey feels about being part of the offense of the moment. He's all about that. I'm sure it was very frustrating to him to see their offense with the amount of money invested and the talent that they have struggle the way it did last
No,
season.
every time they panned to Jeffrey in the box, you could see the misery on it on his face. I was joking about it all
Yeah,
year.
I mean, and he's in
Yeah.
charge, and it's probably as simple as that. But boy, I mean, I just look at it. I guess I look at it completely differently, and I'm like, you certainly, and Jeffrey's been here for a quarter century, so this is the most successful run of Eagles football ever. I don't want to go back to the 49 and 50. I'll upset Ray Diddy, but certainly in the modern era, the Super Bowl era. And yeah, I mean, but Howie, there's a lot of contradiction, Les. Like Howie will say, we like to zig when everybody zags. And then we're following Kyle Shanahan. Like, I don't like copycats. I don't like groupthink.
Right.
I like people. To me, it's if you're trying to copy Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, like the 15 other teams, what are the odds you're going to do it as well as they do it?
Right. Yeah.
I don't like it.
Okay. Yeah, I get you. I understand what you're saying. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but he's always been like
Gannon trying to do what Vic Fangio does. He can do it, but he can't do it quite as well.
When I wasn't covering the team when Jeffrey first came on the scene, but I recall the writing then about him going out to talk to Bill Walsh and, being really, they wanted to get a West Coast offense in here because that was the hot thing in the NFL of the 90s. And they did. They brought Andy in and, I mean, Jeff's all about that sort of thing. Like what's moving the needle in the league right now. And he wants to be in that group. And, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Last one for me here, Les. Just your read on the Goddard situation. They extended the void window from Tuesday to Friday. Kind of seems to me like they're trying to get a deal done. What's your read on that? And do you expect Dallas Goddard to be back?
They must be, and it's really interesting because you would think there'd be a market for this guy, but this is the second year in a row that apparently there really isn't much of a market for him, which is real interesting to me. I don't quite know what to make of it. You guys were talking right before I came on, and you said it perfectly. He had an excellent year catching the football, particularly touchdown-wise, but he had a terrible year as a blocker like everybody else did. I don't know what to make of that. They haven't done anything to get better there. The two guys they signed, they brought back
I would have bet against that, Les.
Yeah.
Therapy, but who knows?
And then they signed the Munt guy from Jacksonville. But I think they kind of need Dallas Goedert at this point if they're not going to go out and get a tight end. I don't think you want to try to draft a tight end in the first round. The guy from Oregon isn't going to be there at 23rd, and you're not going to trade up for it to draft a tight end. So I think that's a pretty good, if you can get Dallas Goedert at a reasonable figure. I kind of wondered, though, with the lack of blocking last year, I don't know what you guys thought, but I wonder, maybe he wasn't that happy being there on a 1-year deal.
I don't think anybody's happy when you make him take a $4 million pay cut. That's
right.
Why I've been on he's probably not going to be back. That's just human nature. I mean, but it's
the only happier to be on here's something, a deal this year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's his only professional home. He likes it here. Maybe he wants to stay. So if it works out for
as Zander said, they could use some continuity in a season of change.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not against
Lex, you tell me that they lost 3 defensive starters. They lose A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert, and they brought in a bunch of coaches on the offensive staff that combined, have less experience than what they had previously. I don't think that year is going to go very well. I'll just say that. But let's see if they can, fix it. We'll see. Les, thanks for joining in today, man. We love having you on. We appreciate it. As always have a great read on the team as you've been doing it for a while here. So we do appreciate you doing it, and we hope to talk to you soon. Thank you, Les.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Les. Appreciate it.
Make sure you guys follow Les on X. Read his work at PHLY. Does a great job. Always good talking to Les Bowen. John, I always appreciate talking to you guys have been around the team for a long time. You guys always give me some intel, about the way it's gone. 90s. Les was talking about the 90s and the early 2000s with Jeffrey Lurie. So good interview there with Les, man. It's going to be interesting, Johnny Mac, what this team looks like this year. A lot of change, J-Mac, a lot of change.
Yeah, a lot of change. There's always a lot of change in the NFL in the modern era, though, because just the nature of it, free agency. Way back you didn't have free agency, so you could get together a group of guys for 10 years and be done with it. Not the case anymore. So that's why I always say, hey, the best are the Bill Belichick's of the world, because they navigated and had that tremendous success in the free agency era where you have that constant turnover. But the Eagles have done pretty well in their own rights, and they generally build the correct way when it comes to roster building. And I do think when you see the finished product, one thing I will give Howie credit for, and I generally give him credit for, most of it makes sense. And you're seeing it already, even though people don't like when you lose players. He's not overpaying guys. It's, and he got it, there's some corners who, and we talked about some of the issues there might be with Riq Woolen, but there's corners that sign for a lot more money who don't have as much talent as him. So if he puts it together, you might have a home run. So he likes to look for those big upside signings. Worked out well a couple of years ago with Saquon Barkley. They thought he was a weapon. People are saying, why are you paying a running back that much? Worked out at least for 1 year. Maybe this works out for 1 year and you get another Super Bowl and everybody's happy.
Sorry about that. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. A lot happening here in Eagle Land yesterday with the Jahad Campbell news and the Jordan Davis talk. What are your final thoughts here on as we wrap up Thursday of free agency week, John? It's been a pretty good week. Will we talk today? Will they get the Goddard deal done? Where are you, J Mac, on your final thought here for today?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards they'll get the Goddard deal done before Friday. It's an indication that both sides want to get something done. So I don't see why it shouldn't be a ton of money. I don't see why it doesn't get done, but we'll see. I'm more optimistic on Dallas Goedert today than I was yesterday. If you don't buy more time if you don't want more time to figure something out. So I think that's positive.
Good way to look at it. Johnny Mac, thank you, brother. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you maybe later on today, or if not, tomorrow on a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right. See you, man.
All right. Thanks, J Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Give him a follow at JF McMullen. Appreciate everybody listening today. Got a good crowd in here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All right. Don't forget to get your text in, by the way. We're just about out, but we do have a couple more and just trying to clean up the loose ends on that. So if you guys want to come down to the home opener with Jacob for the tailgate, get your text in 267-261-3428. It's going to be a kick-ass home opener for the Birds, even if the team's not good, because we're going to have some fun down at the home opener. All right. So I expect to see all you guys down there. If not, you're a bed bug. All right. Here's Philly Don. What's up, Philly Don? Zander, you'll be doing a breaking news segment sometime today on Dallas signing. We'll see, Philly Don. I think you're right. All right, I think you're right, but we will find out. I mean, why else do they both agree to extend the void date to Friday? They're obviously trying to get a deal done. So, obviously trying to get a deal done. I do not have a lot of time here on Zander time today. I tell you what, we've had some fun Zander times the last couple of days. The last couple of days, we've had some interesting Zander times. All right. I was looking through when I was cutting the show up, for segments. So pretty funny. We were going back and forth. A lot of good content here on Jacob this week, and a lot of good metrics. So we appreciate all you guys for doing it. The schedule should be May, Fleming. I'm pretty sure that's when it is. Correct. So the schedule should release in May. All right. We need a Zander time theme. That's a good one. That's a good call. All right. That's a good call. Any artist out there that can make me a copyright-free theme song, Anybody out there? Anybody out there that can do it? Look, original Philly says, get a little animated dancing Zander on the screen. I like that, original Philly. That'd be pretty funny. All right. Fleming, today's not the day, dude. Today's not the day. All right. You're going to have to find something else. I got some shit I got to get done here in the next 20 minutes. So appreciate all you guys tuning in, though. And what is the gauge from everybody here? What is the gauge? Curtis, I know you're feeling doomer. Curtis, I'm like, Curtis, one day I wake up, I feel like a doomer. The other day I wake up, I feel like the Eagles could be good again. It's like they're it's like a seesaw. They're tugging me back and forth. What are the odds A.J. Brown reads Jalen's new kids book on the sideline? I don't know. Probably pretty low vitality, but I do see the irony in that. Shout out to Jalen for releasing that. I'm a doomer, but not because of the defense. Yeah, because of the offense. I'm with you. Offense is definitely a problem. We'll see if they can fix it. I know Dabney's not concerned about the offense. My boy Dabney. All right. I have no expectations from this team. KCA, I got some expectations. Come on, man. T-Time says, I'm neutral at the moment. I need to see if our O-line is healthy. Mr. Doodle, Stuttering John's going to mess you up. I don't know what's up with you and this John. I don't even know the guy you keep referencing. Some dude in the chat. I don't know. Who are you talking about, Mr. Doodle? John, I don't know what the name is. If defense is somehow better, anything is possible. Brandon, that's a big if. I saw the Raiders put out this video today of Nakobe Dean. Made me sad. Look, here it is. Oh, wait, let me turn off the green screen so you can see it. Made me sad. I love Nakobe Dean.
Let's get this work in.
Here's Nakobe.
Hey, what's up, Riq Nation? Nakobe Dean here. Hey, I'm excited. Let's get this work in. Raiders.
Come on, man. I like Nakobe Dean. I really wished we brought Nakobe Dean back. I really did. I really like Nakobe Dean. But it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. This Doodles guy is a fucking weirdo. Now he's like tweeting to me and shit. Fucking weird ass dude, bro. Get a life, dude. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Making fucking Instagram accounts about a doodle dog or some shit and some dude that stutters. Fucking weird ass shit, man. I get a tweet from Doodlehead. What is this guy's name? Fucking Doodlehead. What's this Doodlehead doing, dude? Weirdo. The amount of weirdos on the internet is funny. I always say I love the great people at JAKIB Nation. There's some of you guys that are fucking weirdos. All right? Weirdos. Underdog, what's up, brother? Good to see you, my man. Good to see you in here. Underdog, what do you make of the Eagle move so far? I know what you want overall, but that's not happening, as you can see, Underdog. So what do you make of what they did so far? What do you make of what they did so far? I have more followers. Yeah, I don't use X. I don't give a shit about X. I'm going to start doing X, but I'm not doing Eagle content on X, I don't think. I got to build up some other stuff I'm working on, so. Not Eagle content. I'll keep that for JAKIB. That's for JAKIB. My personal brand will be different than just Eagle content. You can't box me in. I don't want to be boxed in on only the Eagles. I like a lot more shit than just talking about Eagle stuff. Zander is done watching your show. You're done watching my show, or I'm done watching your show? I don't watch many shows, to be frank. I don't watch too many shows. I watch some sports content just to make sure I'm up to date on everything. But outside of that, it all comes from the noggin, folks. It all comes from the noggin. So it is what it is. Rasputin says if they wanted Chubb, they could have. Yeah, Rasputin. I was surprised by that deal, man. I'm not down, Keith. I just wanted them to be paid in Philly. Your show sucks, Zander. All right, Kinsu, why are you here for 2 hours then? Fuck. You've been here for 2 hours. I've seen your comments for 2 hours. What are you talking about? My show sucks. Imagine the show sucking so bad that you sit there and you watch it for 2 hours. Unbelievable. Here's Underdog. They got to do more to replace all they lost on defense. The offense is why the defense's cardio had better be superhuman. It's very true, man. Offense has to – they can't be doing the 3-and-out stuff anymore, you know? So we'll see, Underdog. I'm with you, man. A lot of losses on the defense. 2 straight years now. 5 key starters. And even more than that, you got Slay, Gardner Johnson, you know, even more guys than that. So major losses to the defensive side of the ball. TK, I saw that Ojulari signed him at Atlanta. I'm not going to trip on that one, man. Ojulari didn't do much for the Birds last year. All right. So it is what it is. A good window into their lives to be here. Hey, that's all right. I don't mind the haters. Kinsu says you're a bum and your show is no context or content. That's all right, Kinsu. It's all right, brother. I'm sorry you're having a tough time and a tough life. All right. I'm perfectly good where I'm at, and I don't need to degrade you or disparage you to feel better about myself. I am good, bro. All good, man. Here's Underdog says, I'm emotionally checked out until we have a quarterback, kind of along for the ride. Well, Underdog, you can never emotionally check out fully because we're Eagle fans. It is kind of part of our life, but I hear you. I get it. Look, they got to be better this year. That's just the reality. Go Bird says, dudes will say Z and Sills suck, but spend their days in the chat. Bunch of no light. That's all right, man. That's all right. We love them. We love them. Any chance you can get Sills at the home opener? Maybe, Keese. Maybe. His BF broke up with him. Probably. Who knows? I don't need to shit on anybody. I don't need to shit on people to make me feel better about myself. It's the classic insecure person that does that. Right? JAKIB Nation is not filled with a bunch of insecure losers. All right. That's why on Zander time, we talk about more than football because we elevate the audience. We elevate the lives of people. All right. We don't want to sit here and mope. All right. Come on, man. Come on. We are striving for fucking greatness. For greatness. Here's I just saw a QB squander the best roster in football. Sat my hope. Underdog, I hear you. You know what you got going on here? Sometimes you need to ignore idiots. That's true, Marion. I don't mind. Look, idiots are a part of it. I talk on the internet. All right. A lot of idiots are on the internet. I'm not sure if you could tell. This show is the most I agree, Howard. We always hit everything, man. All opinions, all context, and we add it all up. All right. That's the truth, brother. You better bring 6 dozen clams from Hooters to get Sills here. That's true. That is my biggest knock on Silio. The dude eats clams from Hooters. Okay. Idiots are fun to make fun of. Yes, they are, Jason. I don't need to tear people down, though. Sometimes I have fun with it, but it is what it is. A Citizen Kane says, Dean is gone, but Jahad Campbell has great potential. Well, what's the concern level after Vic Fangio said he's going to be out for the summer? Basically going to be out until the season with his injury, shoulder injury. So all right, guys, I got to run. I appreciate all you guys being here, including King, including Mr. Doodle, including everybody. Underdog, good to see you. Sig Lord, Brandon Howard. Abe, what's up, Abe? Reza, the Goddard jersey's on the way. Okay? The Goddard jersey's on the way. Keese, what's up, brother? Appreciate you, Keese. Appreciate Bird Gang Girl for being here. Love all you guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And by the way, if you're not and you like shorter content or you want more snippets of types of content from our show, go check out the JAKIB Clips channel. That got entered into the YouTube partner program. So it's small. I just started it a couple of months ago. I think in January or February we started it. So only took a month or two to get into the clips or to the monetization into the YouTube partner program. So we appreciate that. Thanks for watching over there. It's a lot of content. So it's different style. You know, I'm pounding clips there constantly all day. So if you want to do that and you want a little shorter form, you can go and do that. But check out the Clips channel. Appreciate all you guys doing it. Hit that like button. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES. Eagles.